So if I'm understanding this right, our girl Rika here was looping for 100 years, and based on what she was saying, eventually was satisfied, reached a point that I guess she lived happy, and then got roped back in and is now living through the events that we're currently seeing. That is beyond painful. There is no surprise that she wanted to end her own life in this episode, and the idea of 5 more loops and I'm out, I mean, based on what I just seen, I can't blame her. I think this is probably the best episode that you can point out and say, this is why it's great for both old fans and new fans alike. Because even though I've never seen the original Higurashi anime like many watching this new version go, it's very clear that the events that she was explaining when we were getting kind of like a rewind and a recap of the events we've seen in this anime, hey, this happened like this back in the day, so I tried it this way. I said, hey, trust in your friends, and trusting in your friends caused you to get killed. Okay, give the doll to her. And it's like, okay, so everything that we've seen clearly didn't happen like that in the original, which obviously I already knew that because commenters told me like the differences, which was fine because I don't consider that to be spoilers because we're watching this version. But to see it from her perspective and to see her mentality, to see why Rika was doing things, because back in the day, our boy Keiichi was a very untrusting character, someone who's very paranoid. So she crafted him to be someone who is trusting in your friends. And to see this all crash and burn, not only just getting this otherworldly kind of scene that was one of the best visually directed things I've seen in months, but even the moments prior to lead up to see her death from her point of view, not hear it, which was already pretty horrifying, but seeing it and just the insanity, which we'll touch more back on before the review's over. But I really want to talk about this worldly scene because this character, Hanyu, it's hard to say what she is, because you can tell she's some form of powerful being. She clearly is some form of god, goddess, spirit, otherworldly being. It's crystal clear. There's no way you can give a seemingly human the ability to remember her memory throughout loops, which I thought she already could remember, but I guess not apparently. It's like there's something very interesting with this character, and now that it seemingly has disappeared, I'm wondering where that's going to lead. I'm really excited to see what the punchline for that storyline will be, but the idea of being both good and amazing for whichever side you fall on, whether it's your first time or it's your new time, you've seen everything, you played everything from before. It's absolutely incredible to see what this show is able to accomplish, because whichever side you fall on, you're going to understand the episode equally, but you're also going to be able to compare more so than just what new time watchers will be like, oh, we've seen this arc, but we haven't seen the arc that happened in a completely different way. So you just get so much different perspectives and ideas, and I really firmly believe Higurashi is the only anime, that, at least that I know of, that has been able to accomplish being both a sequel and a brand new entry to the world of Higurashi that you can enjoy it, whether it's your first time watching or it's your, 7th time because you watched everything that came before. This episode did such a great job at putting us in Rika's mind and saying she is the star of the show. She's the one behind everything, and her death, it causes the reset, it causes a rewind, but also seemingly it's pretty frightening, because I thought like when she died or whatever, we just kick back into this world, because we got a glimpse of it in, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd episode, I believe it was the 2nd. So I thought, she's like, okay, I died, let's move on. That's just the impression that it gave me. This is a girl who's freaking out, especially now that she can remember her memories. Imagine getting your head beaten in with a baseball bat, and then you rewind and you reset, you re-loop, and you still are remembering it. Even if you don't feel the pain, you remember what it was like. That is horrifying. And the idea of having this be like her final goodbye, which at first I was like, I'm really surprised she's ready to give up, because when she's saying, hey, if you find me before sunset, you win. If you don't cry. You knew she was going to end her life, or at least attempt so, especially considering that this character says, hey, there is a sword that can kill anyone in a loop, right? It's like, oh, it's probably meant for her. At first, what I was thinking, I was like, I'm wondering if there's going to be no sword there, and the sword is more figurative, as if the trusting of her friends is what's going to be able to break things. But when she actually did find a shard, I was like, holy shit, she actually could end her life there, if it really is what she said. And the idea of 5 more loops, at first, I was like, there's no way she's going to say that large of a number. I was like, maybe 3 max, but I wouldn't be surprised if she puts like one finger up and says, I'll try it one more time. So 5 more times, it's honestly admirable, because I don't think anyone could realistically deal with that burden. It's kind of similar to the sense of like when you look at characters like Subaru from ReZero, or any characters, or Okabe from Steins Gate. the re-looping and reliving of so much pain, especially if you can now remember what happens to you. How do you deal with that realistically? And to have it be 100 years of it, then you reach a satisfying point and you get ripped away again. How? How do you deal with that, and what can you do? Because based on what we saw in this episode, seemingly what she was doing was she was seeing how it was before, and she was changing the events to be what she thought would be correct. And that didn't work out. So is she going to now have to do something that was completely different, change things before they even reach those points in order to reach new endings? It's hard to say for sure, but I mean, it's not even guaranteed she'll reach a good end, it feels like. This show could completely end in horrifying anguish, and I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if the final episode is her actually dying, and that's the end, the credits roll. This is a show that definitely has you thinking, and by starting the episode off with this brutal fashion, at first I was like, what's going on here? Like, I thought we already reset, right? And actually see it from her point of view, and just from the little kid to the deadpan face of being like, I'll never tell you, and just the horrifying things that happen. Like, I know there's a lot of theories about Sakako and the idea of like, was she actually abused or not? I mean, it still feels like she's innocent. I think it's more of like a red herring sort of a situation. Then again, anything's possible. We don't know with Higurashi, but at the same time, it's just so insane to see where she was, where she went, to then waking up from that dream and just not being the same girl we've come to know and love. It's very hard to say what's going to happen, but I did like seeing just the idea of the group here after like realizing, well, she said if we didn't find her that she'd go home by herself. And our boy comes in saying like, hey, she wants to be found, there's something wrong. It definitely says to me that there is still potential, and I think that's the difference between a good writer and a bad writer. The good writers know how to sprinkle in just a little bit of optimism to say, hey, it looks hopeless, but there's still a small glimmer of hope. Because if there's no hope, there's no point in watching. You'll grow numb to the horror. But by having these characters still stick by her, even if they don't know what's going on, we're saying that there's still hope that they can find a solution, even if it does look dark and grim. One thing I definitely want to quickly add before we wrap this up, this episode had a shot that reminded me of something that would come from Studio Shaft, especially in the Monogatari anime series. The scene of Rika running and you just see her in the distance in the red and the white, that is like a pure Shaft shot, and I say that in the highest regards of a compliment. Studio Shaft is my favorite studio, even though they haven't really done too much as of late. I still put them on a pedestal just because of where they take their visuals. This episode, especially with the kind of unworldly, outerworldly kind of vibe it had going on, there were Shaft moments that just reminded me of stuff from Monogatari, and it really did elevate this scene of despair into something so beautiful yet so tragic. I definitely want to throw that out there because it completely knocked my socks off, and anytime I see a shot or shots like these, it just completely blows me away, and I have to give it a lot of compliments, I have to say. This show's amazing. It's a goddamn masterpiece at this point, if I'm being completely honest, and I firmly believe is the only anime that has successfully been able to be both a new project and a sort of sequel all in one that works for both sides of the fandom. It's absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go in future episodes. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, theories and speculations. What did you think? Definitely let me know. If you enjoyed the video, of course, we'd like to share your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you're happy new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.